in Kenya National Congress. One of the drive that we have is that we make sure as many girls as possible, as many young women as possible occupy positions in leadership, in the party, and also in Kenya. So tafadhali, when we are done with this, please hook up with me. We need to have discussion. We need to have discussion on women in leadership. But today our topic is on nomination. It affects every single person, and that's why we are all logged in here. We will go to see the document and how it affects us. Please look at it keenly. When we are done with this discussion, I just need to tell us that the document is only 17 pages. So you can have the document and have a better scrutiny of it, so that you have a better appreciation, and you can raise the questions as much as you have, so that we take them to the attention of the other National Executive Council members. I want to believe that we were introduced by Isaac Kinyua. Isaac, is that okay? Are we all introduced and therefore we can go into the agenda of the day?
Maybe you can quickly, in less than 10 minutes, have the members introduce themselves, and then we can go to the agenda.
Thank you. I am rightly guided. May I start by asking Lillian Jerry, kindly unmute and say hi.
Hello everyone, I'm Lillian Jerry, the project manager here in Nakuru.
Karibu sana Lillian, glad to have you on board. Elvin Kamau, kindly unmute and say hi to members.
Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Elvin.
I'm Elvin Kamau. Glad to be with you this afternoon.
Karibu sana Elvin. Maureen Birir, unmute and say hi to us.
Oh, hi everyone. My name is Maureen Birir from Nakuru, and I'm glad to join you guys for the meeting.
Thank you so much, Maureen. We have Willie Oeba. Willie, kindly unmute and say hi.
Hi everyone, my name is Willie Oeba from Nakuru. Feels good to be around.
Thank you, Willie. Karibu sana. Mercy Chwea, please say hi.
Hi everyone, my name is Mercy. And
Ruth Mugo, kindly say Robert, kindly mute. Robert, kindly mute. Ruth Mugo, kindly mute and say hi.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ruth Mugo from Nairobi County. I'm glad to join you in the meeting.
Karibu sana. Caroline Mombi. Carol Mombi, kindly unmute and say hi. Carol Mombi, can you hear me? Caroline Mombi.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, Karibu, say hi to us.
I'm Caroline Mumbi from CMD Kenya. Hi.
Hi.
Yes.
Oh, glad to have you on board. Good.
Thank you.
Irene Opondo. Irene, kindly unmute and say hi. Irene, are you able to hear us? Okay. Irene, are you able to hear us? Irene Opondo. Okay, maybe she'll say hi later. Claire Kimanga.
Hello, everyone.
Hi,
Hello.
Claire. Hi, Claire.
I'm okay. Hi, I'm happy to be here.
Glad to have you on board. Olga Omare. Olga, kindly unmute and say hi. Olga. Olga, can you hear me? Okay. Leocardia gaudentia, kindly unmute and say hi. Leocardia gaudentia. Leocardia gaudentia, can you hear me?
Hello, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Lawrence Owade, kindly
Okay,
unmute
I'm
and
Leocadia Gaudensia and the Deputy Secretary for Information and Publicity. And I'm glad you.
Thank you, Leocardia. Lawrence Owade, kindly unmute and say hi.
Hello.
Hi, Lawrence, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Hi, Lawrence, we can hear you. Kindly say hi.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
My name is Lauren.
Okay, thank you. One of us has logged in as 880080. 880080. Kindly unmute, tell us your name. Kindly unmute. I can see you smile. You must have heard me. Kindly unmute and tell us your name.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
My name is Mariam Momo. I'm from Nakuru. I'm a youth leader, Nakuru Town West constituency. Thank you.
Thank you, Mario. If you could rename your gadget, just give it the right name. We'll appreciate.
Okay, thank you.
Collins, kindly unmute and say hi. Yes, Collins, it's your chance. Kindly unmute and say hi.
He can't hear us. He's not connected over the audio. We can proceed on to another person.
Oh, he can't hear us. Okay. Okay, Robert. Robert, kindly unmute and say hi. Okay. Someone else is logged in as Oppo A93. Oppo A93. Kindly unmute and say hi. And tell us your name, please. Oppo A93. Okay, if you find time, then you'll say hi. Thank you, Robert. You can see you're saying hi to everyone. Okay, is there anyone I've left out? I am deliberately leaving out Range Muita, our leader. I know he will come and say hi last. There's someone else logged in as ITEL 1408.
Also not connected by audio, so we can proceed on.
Okay, thank you so much. Tracy, please say hi to us.
Good afternoon. My name is Tracy from the Center for Multi-Party Democracy Kenya, and I'm looking forward to fruitful deliberations.
Thank you so much, Tracy. We are glad you joined us, and thank you for continuous support. I saw Bwana Range Muita. Say hi to us and flag off this meeting. I think you are the senior leader here. Bwana Range. Isaac, are you able to see Range?
Yes, so let me get in touch with him, but we can proceed on. I believe we can make the closing remarks.
All right.
Be in a position to, yeah.
That is in order. Asante
Okay.
sana.
Asante.
So is there anyone I've left out?
For the interest of time, I advise we proceed on. For those whom we have not, once they'll be making their submission, their input, then they'll get an opportunity of introducing themselves.
Thank you so much. So I'll request you to kindly share with us the document so we can start discussing it. Bwana Isaac, share with us the document. So members, like we said, today we are going to discuss this document, KNC nomination rules. We are just going to go through the document, and I will be doing emphasis on parts that I think are most important to us. The way I've designed it in such a way that once we go through the document, if there's anything pressing and extremely important, you can put in the chat so that we pick it and address it as is, so we can continue. This is KNC nomination rules. The document is a live document. It was adopted on the 2nd of January 2017. So we are talking about a document that is also in the custody of ORPP, who are a government body and also a regulator. So we'll just start from the beginning, and we are saying the nomination rules as adopted in 2017. And the rules are guided by the spirit, philosophy, and principles upon the party missions and visions are conceptualized. And then, like I said, the adoption was done on the 2nd January 2017. Thereafter, we have a definition of key terms and conditions. Yes, Isaac, you can continue. Just take us to the next page. Okay. Yes. KNC party is making it clear that there are different persons and different terms that are referred to in this document that they would like you to know. The nomination officials, those are persons appointed in accordance with the purpose of these rules. The party here is the Kenya National Congress Party. We have definition of a person with disability, and the document says that the same definition that there is in the Constitution of Kenya is the same definition that is given to it in this document. And it would also be important to say that a better definition of persons with disability is the definition that we find in the UN. So we can also refer to the definitions of the UN of persons with disability. A polling center means a returning officer is a person appointed or designated under the rules to conduct nomination. Party list and nomination days, that is pretty much clear. Party nomination days and lists. Then there will be a presiding officer to be in charge of this function. There is a register. And this register, when we go ahead, we'll realize that it is registered both at county and at national level. We also have voters, who is a voter and who is a woman according to this definition, and who is a youth. Both woman and youth, we can refer to what the definition is given according to Article 260 of the Constitution of Kenya. Okay, next page, Tracy. We have the National Executive Council as among the bodies that are mandated to do nomination. And this is the party organ, or the one that has authority with the ultimate authority over nomination process, including the power to make rules governing nomination processes and procedures. The National Executive Committee may delegate any of its function to the National Executive Management Committee. The National Elections Board and other organs created by these rules, all employees, servants, and agents of the party shall be answerable to and obliged to abide by the lawful guidelines and directions of the National Executive Councils. Then apart from the NEC, there is the National Election Board. This is the primary organ of the party to which the functions and powers of National Executive Committee as far as relates to nominations and elections are delegated. It will be important at this point that I mention that in the National Executive Committee, we have 42% of the National Executive Committee of KNC being young people. So heavy representation right there. So let's continue. County Election Board, that in every county, today we have heavy representation from Nakuru. Nakuru, you need to know that in your county, there's a County Election Board. It is an organ that is responsible for function and powers of the NEC through the express directive of National Election Board as far as relates to nomination and election of the party at the county level. And then there's the National Appeals Tribunal. Once all those businesses have happened, usually you may have one or two people who want clarity or clarification on concerns that are there. This is the institution that is in charge of that, the National Appeals Tribunal. Now, part 2, eligibility for nomination. Tracy, kindly, if you move it, if you could move it for us, thank you. Eligibility for nomination. Please look at this part keenly. The criteria is 1, you should be a citizen of Kenya. 2, registered party member. And a registered party member, it is important that I clarify that you are registered when your name appears in party records, and the same name should also appear in the records of ORPP. And ORPP shares the same data with IEBC. I have witnessed cases where you find that KNC knows you as a member, but ORPP doesn't. So as an individual, I would encourage us to kindly counter-check with these other government bodies so that when you get through nomination process, then it becomes smooth for you and I. And then you should be qualified to stand for any elective or selective positions in accordance with the laws of Kenya. This is referring to Chapter 6 of the Constitution. And you should be a registered voter, valid in the IEBC records. You should have signed the party pledge. There is a document called Party Pledge of Conduct. It's basically you committing that you will have certain things in place, including monthly remunerations that you'll be paying to the party. It's a very important document and should be willing and able to sign that document. He or she as proposed nomination is seconded by a minimum number of registered KNC party members as applies to the particular candidate. We will see later how many people are supposed to second you and who is supposed to be a supporter as you come for nomination. You should have signed the party pledge. You should have proposed nomination is seconded by minimum number of registered KNC voters. Yes, can we proceed? The seconders, minimum number of seconders is provided below. If you want to be a president, then your request for nomination should have at least 2 people seconding your interest to be president. If you want to be the governor, then the seconders minimum should be 2. Senator, minimum 2. Women representatives, 2. National Assembly reps, 2. County Assembly representatives, 2. Then your supporters, this should be coming from within your county or where you're going to look for representation. The minimum number of supporters should be president 1,000, governor 500, senator 500, woman rep 500, National Assembly representatives, that is MP 200, county assembly reps 50. So let us look at what would disqualify us from nomination. A person is not qualified for nomination as a KNC candidate if, number 1, the person owes allegiance to a foreign state or is a state officer or is acting in any state office. The Constitution is very clear and has provided a list of who is considered as a state officer. Number 2, Stacy, if you could just move it a bit. Number 2 is a subject to a sentence of imprisonment exceeding 6 months imposed on him by such a court or substitute by competent authority, or if the person is of unsound mind, or if the person is in violation of Chapter 6 of the Constitution of Kenya or any other law, if the person is bankrupt, if the person has not paid the prescribed nomination fees as determined by NEC, if the person has not produced any necessary identification documents required by the party, or is by virtue of his own act of admission under acknowledgement of any allegiance, obedience, or adherence to another political party, that you will not be cleared because you have direct allegiance to another political party. Exemptions from disqualifications, subsection 2.2 shall not apply to, and that subsection is, remember we had said if you are a state officer, you don't get nomination, but the following state officers are likely to get nomination because of the nature of the job they are doing. That is 1, the president, the deputy, a governor, a deputy governor, member of parliament, or a member of county assembly. This provision is in line with that which the roles provide, because you cannot resign before the next election cycle starts. So, I mean, it's just pretty clear that it should be that way. Procedure of applying for nomination. All persons seeking to contest presidential, gubernatorial, senatorial, National Assembly member, woman rep, or county assembly reps election on a Kenya National Congress ticket shall register to the KNC party in respect of any election for which these rules apply. And 1, they shall apply to the National Elections Board, and they will submit the application, a duly completed and signed code of conduct to the party. The party may require in the application the application should be very accurate and truthful. The application to the National Executive Board should be done within a specific time frame. And then there is also payment of application and nomination fees as shall be determined by the National Executive Council. Forwarding of list of aspirants. Upon receipt of the list of aspirants by the NEB, such list shall be forwarded to the National Executive Committee. Let's continue. Party organs responsible for nominations and preparation of party nomination lists and certificates. The first party organ for nomination the party organ that shall be responsible for conduct of party nomination of persons to vie for elective or selective posts shall be established, and their members and chairpersons appointed in accordance with as provided by these rules. And the first organ will be National Executive Committee. And they shall be in general be responsible for the following functions. Number 1, receiving party nomination lists. The NEC will also give directions and guidelines. And their direction and guidelines will be overriding directions and guidelines from any other. They will review candidature suitability. And in this section, they're saying, in addition and to pursuant to the powers granted to it by the party constitution, the NEC has the power to consider objections in respect for any candidate and on its motion to review the suitability of any person presented for any party nomination before or after nomination. The National Executive Board is the second body, and its role is to announce nomination timetable. It is also supposed to prepare nomination budgets. It's also supposed to actually conduct nominations by providing materials, providing guidelines, and vetting the people who are supposed to do the nomination. It's also supposed to do the oversight of nomination. Tracy, if you could move it a little bit. Oversight and providing materials and directions and guidance. Presidential and gubernatorial nomination That is done by the National Elections Board, and they do the arranging for and fairly and transparently conducting the nomination election for the presidential and gubernatorial positions. They are also the same body receiving results from the National Assembly, Senate, County Assembly, and from all over. Then there's the other function is receiving provisional county nomination lists. Remember, we said we also have the county election board. Once the county election board does their nomination, they provide their results to the National Elections Board. The board receives provisional county national nomination lists. They prepare final party nomination lists, and they have the same signed. When they are doing the signing, it's done in consultation with the National Executive Committee, preparing final party, presidential, national, gubernatorial, senatorial, and county assembly nomination lists. It is the National Executive Elections Board that also issues the nomination certificates. Yes, let's continue. Any other function that complements and it's the foregoing is provided for in these rules. The County Elections Board. County election boards, which shall in general be responsible for the following functions. It does oversight. It also does the actual nominations. It reports to the National Executive Board, and they provide the provisional county party nomination lists and any other functions as will be provided at that particular time and advised to do so. Yes, please proceed. Tracy, if you could move a little bit. Tracy, we are waiting for you. Thank you. The National Elections Board, conducting of business of National Election Board. The National Election Board shall, among its order of business, formulated rules and procedures for the conduct of affairs. It also does the reporting. It prepares the forms that are used to process in the process of nomination. It also prepares and issues a certificate. If you could go back a little bit, just make sure that the forms and the certificates that are issued are signed by the Secretary General and the National Chairman. That authenticates that document. Yes, let's continue. Conduct of meetings at County Elections Board. The County Election Board shall formulate rules and procedures for the conduct of its business at meetings subject to overriding guidelines of the NEC. Reporting. The County Election Board shall report to the National Elections Board, which shall consider and, where necessary, as its sole and unfettered discretion, act on any report of the County Election Board in any manner that it deems fit, just and or expedient to the achievement of the party interest. Colin, kindly mute. Thank you. Tracy, we can continue. In relation to the party nomination, we have returning officers, presiding officers, clerks, and other officers shall be appointed by the National Executive Boards. Chief agents. The National Elections Board shall receive appointments of chief agents of each of the candidates contesting president, governor, senator, National Assembly, County Assembly, women rep, and the nomination will constitute universal suffrage on the day designated by the National Executive Board. Please note there that the chief agents are appointed by you who is contesting, and the chief agent's name or details are there after presented to the National Elections Board. Vetting and deployment of returning officers, presiding officers, and clerks. The NEB shall vet for or reject with reasons persons proposed for appointment as returning officers, presiding officers, clerks, and other officers. And then they will be deployed as necessary to any station or center to perform nomination functions under those rules. Sensitized on nomination rules, the NEB shall, together with the returning officers, sensitize all aspirants. The NEB shall sensitize all aspirants on nomination rules, nomination guidelines in consultation with the National Executive Council. The NEB shall formulate guidelines in accordance with and so as not to be in conflict with these nomination rules to be known as the nomination guidelines related to how nomination elections of party shall be conducted as far as logistics and any other business is concerned. Let's continue. The ADR, that is the alternative dispute resolution mechanism, shall be provided. And the form that will be developed mostly is dialogue between the board and the aspirants, between the aspirants themselves, those who will not be happy with each other. There should be a discussion and a resolution should be had. Presenting list of candidates, the National Executive Board shall present the National Executive Committee a list of all aspirants contesting party positions or elections for parliamentary, Senate, gubernatorial, women rep, county assembly position. The same body shall monitor and report. The county election board shall monitor the nomination process within the county and provide report to the National Executive Council within 48 hours. And then they will also receive the results. The National Executive Board shall receive national elections results for all National Assembly, Senate, gubernatorial, women rep, assembly seats that have been contested. And the last one is the issue of nomination certificate. The National Executive Board is the one issuing the nomination certificates. And remember, we had said earlier, the certificate is only valid if it has been signed by the chairperson of the party, chairman, and the secretary general. Function of county election board. Let's continue. Thank you. It's almost similar to the National Executive Board, only that the County Election Board focuses on the duties and responsibilities that they have within the county itself. Okay, we can continue. Go to Register of Party Voters. Principal Register of Party Voters. The National Elections Board shall prepare the Kenya National Congress Principal Register of Voters, which shall comprise of 1, a poll register in respect of every polling station, a ward register to every ward, constituency register for every constituency, a county register for every county, and a register of voters residing outside Kenya. Let's continue. The contents of that register, the Kenya National Congress Principal Register shall contain such information as shall be determined by the National Executive Council. Register of Party Voters and Amendment of Party Voter Register. Registration of party voters and revision of voters under this regulation shall be carried out at all times, save that party registration of party voters shall close 1 month or such other times as NEC determines, but before the date on which parties are required to submit party membership lists to IEBC. So that means even now, registration of voters is continuing. And the register can only be closed 1 month before the actual nomination starts. Any person who has attained the age of 18 years and is a holder of a national identity card or a Kenyan passport and whose name is not in the membership register of any other political party in Kenya may be registered as a voter under these rules upon application. All applicants under this section shall be registered in the appropriate register by the board. The board shall cause the principal register and constituent register of voters to be opened for a period of 14 days after the date of closing of registration of voters for inspection by applicants during official working hours for the purpose of confirming and verifying the particulars therein. The board shall, upon expiry of inspection specified therein above, compile the amendment to the register of voters and publish a notice at the county offices of the party to the effect that such compilation has been completed. The principal register of voters shall be kept at the headquarters of the party, and copies of constituent part of the principal register of voters relating to respective electoral areas described in Rule 6 shall be kept in all county offices of the party. Let's continue. Let's see what process there is on the actual nomination day. On the nomination day, the National Executive Board shall announce nomination day or days which shall be no more than 30 days before the day parties are required by law to have nominated candidates. Remember, we as a party have also to comply with IEBC rules, because immediately the party is done with its nomination, then it submits the list of candidates to IEBC. The provision of electoral material, the National Elections Board shall ensure that all electoral materials necessary for the conduct of the nomination process under these rules shall reach the designated polling centers 12 hours before the commencement of the nomination process, unless unable for reasons or circumstances beyond their control. In the event that the materials do not reach polling centers within stipulated period, the National Election Board shall communicate the same to the National Executive Committee, who shall give directions on the actions to be taken thereof. Once the documents have been received, a certificate shall be issued by each returning officer, and presiding officer will sign the certificate confirming that they have received the election materials. It is important to note only party voters to enter nomination polling station, except for the presiding officer, other elections officials, administration and security officers, candidates and accredited agents, and or persons necessarily assisting blind and incapacitated voters. Persons who do not qualify as voters shall not be allowed to enter or to vote in that center, nor will such persons be eligible or permitted to remain within a radius of 600 meters thereof. Let's continue. Any candidate who on nomination day, either by himself, his agents or supporters, engage, permits or condones any acts of violence whatsoever and howsoever may be disqualified. The presiding officer shall record and report on such a behavior within the polling center and decision made thereof. Admission of candidates and agents to nomination polling centers. The presiding officer shall admit to the polling center at least one agent of each candidate, but he may refuse admission to a person claiming to be an agent for a candidate if that person does not produce a letter of appointment as an agent signed by the candidate himself in the prescribed format. The assumption here is that you who is contesting, or you who wants nomination, will have let the National Elections Board know who your agents are, and therefore confusion should not be there. Removal from polling station for misconduct. If any person misbehaves in a polling center or fails to obey the lawful instructions or orders of the presiding officer, they may immediately be removed by the order of the presiding officer, and a person so removed shall not re-enter the polling center during continuance of the poll without the permission of the presiding officer. The presiding officer may order removal of a person or dispersal of any gathering of persons which appear to him to be preventing free access to and from the polling center, or to be intimidating or interfering with delegates, and any such order shall be sufficient for a presiding officer or any other person authorized to effect the necessary action. I think this is just all to just ensure there is law and order. Let's proceed. Description of nomination election process. Nomination polling shall be carried out between 6 a.m. and 5 p.m. provided that the presiding officer may, where the polling station has opened in good time, extend nomination by no more than 1 hour for reason to be recorded in writing and announced to the assembly of voters. In the event that polling station has opened later than 6 a.m., the presiding officer may, upon consultation with the candidates and National Election Board, extend the closing time by a reasonable time beyond 5 p.m. The polling center shall be a location that the County Elections Board will determine. The presiding officer may close a polling station if there is a security threat. The presiding officer may extend nomination if there are voters still on the queue after polling time has lapsed, or to compensate for the time the polling station was closed. Every candidate shall be allowed to designate agents, and the designated shall be allowed into a polling center. On nomination day, candidates duly cleared by the National Election Board shall present themselves or by their designated agents be present before the respective returning officers with a party compliance certificate. On nomination day, candidates duly cleared by the NEB shall present themselves or by their designated agents. Before the commencement of voting, the presiding officer shall explain to the candidates or designated agents the purpose and procedure of nomination exercise. The same presiding officer shall employ or design and put in place a system to ensure that no voter has an opportunity to vote more than once. They will provide a place where all voters can assemble in an orderly manner before the commencement of voting. In consultation with County Election Board, they will ensure strict observance of law and order to facilitate free and fair nomination. Let's continue. Just before commencement of the voting, the ballot box or the ballot boxes shall be shown to the persons who are there. And they will be allowed, the candidates or agents will be allowed to ascertain that the boxes are empty. I think this is quite procedural. It also just brings or removes the issues of mistrust. After ballot boxes are ascertained to be empty, they shall cause them to be sealed and placed in the polling center that they can at all times be in the view of himself or an aspirant or their presiding officer. They will announce the posts and names of all eligible candidates. Then they will ensure that the ballot papers for the polling station will be in form of serialized booklets. Ensure that the ballot boxes shall be transparent. And then they need to ensure that all ballot papers bear the official stamp of the party. Nomination is deemed to have commenced once the presiding officer declares the polling center duly open. There shall be no campaigning or any form of intimidation whatsoever within the vicinity of the polling center on nomination day. And voting shall be done by secret ballot or as otherwise determined by the County Election Board in consultation with the National Elections Board. All eligible voters shall identify themselves by holding their national identity cards and party membership cards before commencement of voting. If only one person presents themselves for nomination by the day set aside for submission of application for nomination as a candidate for a position under these rules, that candidate shall be declared duly nominated on the day designated by the National Elections Board for nomination under Section 20. Let's continue. Yes, Tracy, next. Counting of votes. The returning officers shall make arrangements to start counting of votes immediately after 5 p.m. or at the close of polling, whichever will come later. Place of counting of votes. Counting of votes will take place at the polling station in the presence of candidates or their appointed agents. Restriction or access to polling station during counting. At the time of tallying of votes, except for the presiding officer, other election officials, security officers, candidates, and accredited agents, no persons shall be allowed to enter the place of counting of votes in that polling station, nor will such persons be permitted to remain within a radius of 100 meters thereof. Procedure before counting. Before commencement of counting of votes begin, the presiding officer shall explain to all persons present. Collins, kindly mute. Collins, kindly mute. So we are saying before the counting starts, the presiding officer will explain to all persons present the purpose and procedure of the counting exercise. He or she will employ, design, or put in place a system to ensure that no vote is counted more than once. In consultation with County Elections Board, they will ensure strict observance of the rule in order to ensure free and fair nomination. Duty of presiding officer at the polling station. The presiding officer will record the results on the prescribed certificate, immediately require each candidate or his agent to countersign the certificate. Let's continue. This is like the famous Form 34A or B, but that will be for the party, which must be countersigned by the candidates. Every refusal by a candidate or agent to countersign the certificate shall be made in prescribed manner. That you just don't refuse by shaking your head, but you must present it in a manner that shall be advised by the National Executive Board. Then the presiding officer will immediately issue each candidate or his agent with a copy of duly signed certificate. Then the results. Presiding officer shall submit. Winnie, kindly mute. The presiding officer shall submit the original results certificate to the respective returning officers. Then the returning officer for each election area shall, on receipt of results certificate from each, they will tally the results and then they record the results on the prescribed form. Then they will require each presiding officer to witness the entry of his polling center results on the nomination results certificates. Then we continue to see other duties of the returning officers. Please, can we continue? Then the returning officer shall add up the nomination figures. They will sign the preliminary nomination results certificate and request the agent to sign and announce results for electoral area. The returning officer shall issue the winning candidate with a preliminary certificate of election, provided, however, that the preliminary certificate shall merely be prima facie evidence of the results and shall not be a certificate of nomination by the party. Remember, we said earlier that the actual or the right nomination certificate is signed by two people, the party chair and the secretary general. So the certificate that shall be issued by the presiding officer will be preliminary. It ought to be clear that way. The records referred to and or produced under these rules will specify the names and positions and votes received by each candidate. The returning officer shall submit all records of nomination exercise to the National Executive Board in due course as directed by the National Board. Right to appeal against results. Any candidate taking part in elections who is dissatisfied with the results shall be entitled to appeal to the National Executive Appeal Tribunal, and that should be done within 72 hours. 72 hours from the time the nomination results have been released. Party nominee to be issued with certificate. The winner of the nomination will be issued with a prescribed certificate by the National Elections Board not more than 48 hours after announcement of results or after an appeal contesting the nomination results has been resolved, unless the board is unable to do so for reasons or circumstances beyond their control. Material to be sealed and kept in safe custody. James Alumera, I can see you. Tracy will handle that for us. Tracy will do that for us because she's the host now. Procedure where a candidate's tie In the event that there is a tie in the votes cast during nomination process for any position, the candidates who receive the greatest number of votes shall be subjected to a fresh election. Such fresh election must be held within 7 days after the original election. Remember, those have still to happen before the IEBC calendar. We shouldn't be interfering with the calendar of IEBC. So that's why 7 days have to happen. Appeals, organs, constitution, power, and processes. General guidelines of appeal and general powers of appeal tribunal. These rules shall prescribe the fees to be paid upon the lodging of an appeal, which fees will be calculated so as to cater wholly or partially for the reasonable sitting allowances for the members of the appellate tribunal, for sitting to hear and determine the appeal, and secretarial services provided thereof, while taking in due consideration the economic realities of Kenya so as not to unduly discourage appeals. An appeal may be lodged without undue formalities in English or in Kiswahili language simply by writing to the appellate tribunal and delivering the same to any member of the appellate tribunal, and delivering once it's been delivered to any member, the same document will be immediately forwarded for transmission for discussion. Please, let's continue. Should the nomination or selection process be found and determined to be flawed and declared null and void by an election appeals tribunal upon an appeal within the time provided, the National Elections Board shall announce the dates and venue for fresh elections, and in the case of presidential and deputy presidential nomination, conduct a repeat election, and in any other case, direct the County Elections Board for the affected county to conduct a repeat election in the manner prescribed for the conducting an election in these rules. Should any appeal tribunal hearing an appeal conclusively arrive at decision where it makes a conclusive determination as regards who the winner of the nomination election is or was, the National Elections Board shall have the mandate to declare such a candidate the winner, such to the right provided under these rules for a party in the appeal who has a candidate in the nomination election to lodge appeal. That this document actually gives powers to the tribunal that they can also declare someone a winner as long as they have gone through and listened to both parties in the right manner. It will be interesting to hear what your comments are about that. Then let's proceed. Tracy, let's proceed to 28.5. There, should the National Elections Appeal Tribunal hearing an appeal conclusively upon sufficient proof being adduced that a candidate has secured his nomination through undue influence, corruption, or other fraudulent means, it shall immediately make its decision known to the National Elections Board, which may proceed to set aside and nullify such nomination and have power to declare a winner or call for a re-election. Returning or presiding officers shall file duly signed returns with the National Elections Board not later than 2 days after an announcement of results. Fees for lodging an appeal, the appeal shall be made by paying the prescribed fee. Finality of decision subject to interventions of National Elections Board, the decision of the National Elections Appeals Tribunal shall be final. Nominations for list. We have just been discussing how you eventually get nominated to appear in the list or to contest against other people nationwide. Now, this is the list for nomination. It's famously known as top-up list, or where we are meeting the gender gap or any other requirements of the law. Party organs for nomination to and preparation of party lists. The party organs that shall be responsible for nomination of persons to the party list shall be the following. Number 1, National Executive Committee, which shall in general be responsible for the following functions. They will receive and consider provisional party lists from the National Elections Board, They will give overriding directions and guidelines and the final determination and or approval of the Provisional National Assembly, Senate, County Assembly party list. The second body is the National Elections Board, which shall in general be responsible for the following functions: announcing the National Assembly, Senate, County list on nomination days, and shall in general be responsible for the following functions: oversight and providing materials, direction, and guidelines for the conduct of shortlisting and interview of candidates for county, National Assembly, and Senate party lists. Let's continue. Once they oversight, they will receive the results. Receiving results of interview of candidates and the interview process for County Assembly, National Assembly, and Senate party list. Preparing the Provisional National Assembly, Senate, and County Assembly party list for presentation to the National Executive Committee, provided that in preparing the Provisional National Assembly, Senate, and County lists, the Party National Elections Board may amend the list and names contained in the preliminary party list presented to it. Then they have having the same signed, having the final National Assembly, Senate, County Assembly nomination party list duly signed for authentication by the necessary National Executive Committee officials pursuant to and in accordance with the party constitution and any other provision of the law. They will conduct any other functions appertaining to the foregoing. Party list nomination days. The National Election Board shall announce the party list nomination day or days if necessary, which shall be no more than 30 days before the day by which parties are required to have nominated their candidates. Again, this will go in line with the expectation of IEBC. Let's continue, Tracy. Advertisement or calling for applications. The National Elections Board shall announce in at least 2 newspapers of wide circulation calling for applications by persons interested in being in the party lists. Then there's a deadline for application. The deadlines for making applications shall be on more than 7 days, shall be not more than 7 days after the application of the call for application. Shortlistings of persons for interview for party lists. National level shortlisting within 7 days. The respective county elections board shall, for the respective counties, shortlist persons for interview for the respective county party list within 7 days of the deadline for applications being received. County assembly short within seven days. Then there is notice of interviews. National Elections Board and county elections shall respectively call for interviews. Persons shortlisted for nomination the respective party list by giving at least 3 days notice. National Executive Committee to have the final and selection power. The National Executive Board and the County Elections Board shall recommend names for adoption, which shall be subjected to variation where necessary for the National Executive Committee. Providing of reasons for varying lists. Where the National Elections Committee varies names having received them from the National Elections Board, the County Elections Board, it records its reasons in the prescribed manner. They will not just do changes without giving reasons. Let's continue to 38. Selection of party lists, persons, key guidelines. In identifying persons for the National Assembly, Senate, National Elections Board shall apply the following. That very person listed on a party list shall have applied for the position. That very person so listed shall have met requirements of that position in these guidelines and any other written law. And by this, they're also referring to the Constitution of Kenya, the requirements of a president, the requirements of a senator, the requirements of a member of parliament. All those must be met. That the party lists represent the diversity of the people of Kenya and regional balance. That there shall be consideration for youth, women, and persons with disability and marginalized and minority groups. That every person so listed shall have been active in the propagation of the party's principles and objectives on a national scale. County party list nomination. In identifying persons for party list for the county, the county election board shall apply the following guidelines. That very person listed in a party list shall have applied for the position. The person so listed shall have met the requirements for that position. And that the party list represent the diversity and regional balance of the people of that county. And there shall be consideration for youth, women, persons with disability, marginalized, and minority groups. And that that very person listed shall have been active in the propagation of the party principles and objectives within the county. Then the National Assembly party list for special seats nomination. Tracy, if you could just scroll up. Tracy, kindly scroll. Yeah, thank you. National Assembly party list for special seats nomination. In identifying persons for National Assembly party list for special seats, the National Elections Board shall apply the following guidelines. That very person listed on a party list shall have applied for the position. And the person should have met requirements of the positions according to the law. The list should represent diversity. Consideration must be given for youth, women, persons with disabilities, marginalized. That very person who should be listed shall have been active in propagation of party principles and objectives within the country. Time for application. Persons wishing to be nominated under this provision will apply at the same time as candidates for elective posts for such time as shall be advised by the National Elections Board. The qualifications for candidates to be on the party list will be the same as that of candidates on the National Assembly, with the exception of requirements relating to supporters. National Assembly party list, male, female to alternate. The National Assembly party list names shall be listed in alternate between male and female candidates in order of priority. First, for candidates to be youth and persons with disability. And then the National Assembly party list to have 2 youth and 2 persons with disability. National Assembly party list shall have at least 2 young people and a person with disability, provided that that person may represent more than one category. Ethnic diversity. The qualifications of the women candidates to be on the Senate party list shall be the same as the candidates of the Senate, with the exception of the requirements relating to supporters. And of course, the list must consider ethnic diversity. The qualification for women candidates to be on Senate party list shall be same as that of women. Continue. I think that's a repetition. Youth or Senate party lists qualification. The qualification for the youth candidates to be on the same Senate party list shall be the same as candidates of the Senate, with the exception of requirements relating to supporters. Youth Senate party list. The Senate party list listed. There shall be alternate of male and female. Persons with disability. The name shall be listed in alternate between male and female. I think it's just the same thing we have said again and again. Yes, National Assembly and county party list must factor in all the same that we have said. And now fees and finances, nomination fees. The National Executive Committee shall from time to time determine and provide the schedule of fees payable for nomination fees for various positions. Appeal fees. The NEC shall from time to time determine and provide the schedule fees payable for appeals for these rules to be filed. The Kenya National Congress Party shall meet the headquarters operational cost of nomination process, including printing, supervision, and the rest. The National Executive Committee may issue orders for the better carrying out into effect of these rules, and without prejudice to the generality of the foregoing orders issued under these rules may take provisions for designation under certificate of notification, and then the procedure for appeal, the scale of allowances for nomination officials and delegates. I think that is in order. Let's continue. General provisions. All documents relating to nominations shall be declared and forwarded by the presiding officer to the party headquarters and shall then, unless the party chairman otherwise directs, be destroyed after a period of not less than 6 months from the date of such nomination. Document retained under these rules other than ballot papers shall be made available for inspection by any other member of the party upon a request made by him at such a time and subject to such conditions as may be decided by the party headquarters. An officer, clerk, or other person having a duty to perform under such rules who without reasonable cause contravenes the same by an act of omission of these rules shall be liable to disciplinary action. That marks the end of our document. It's my belief that we have learned something. This is a schedule of documents of what is at this documents is what is attached to the nomination documents as we provide the documents to ORPP. Yeah, so just referring to the lists of aspirants and all that, that probably is not useful for our discussion at this particular time. So thank you so much thank you, Isaac, for sharing the document. Thank you so much, members, for sitting in. It's been long. 17 pages is not easy, but I trust that we have learned something. I want to hear from you. Are there parts of the document that you think should continue? And are there parts of the document that you think that the leadership ought to be told about adjusting it? What is it that was important to you in that document? Was there anything new you learned? May I get your observations? James Alumera, I can start with you. Kindly unmute, sir.
And then Lillian, we could also, before James goes ahead to say something, we could ask them to raise their hands so that you can be able to prioritize them.
Yes, I think Isaac has put it well. Raise your hand so we can prioritize you. I can see James and Felix. So after we start with James, then Felix.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. The process has been good, and what I can adhere is that at least we have gotten the knowledge on how to tackle issues in this political party. And I believe that if we continue with this kind of spirit, we are going to gather more information. We are going to woo support from the ground and to ensure that we have a ground to mobilize more people to come to this political party. Another point that I have gotten is clear. It is on that nomination slot, whereby whoever wins the nomination election is being issued with the certificate to go to run for the final race. That is the general election. So those people that have been defeated, that they have that capacity to support who has won the nomination, regardless of them going back to other party hopping or going for an independent slot. So I believe that we are going to that direction. So that is my input, and I believe that tutashirikiana sisi wote na tusonge pamoja. I may have a lot, but let me create another room for other speakers also to share out. Thank you.
Thank you so much, James. Thank you so much, James. Felix or Yugi? Felix, you had some comments? Okay, I think
I'm just okay.
Felix,
I'm just okay. You can just proceed as I consider to prepare for the comments.
Thank you so much. I'm waiting to see your hands. Isaac, are you seeing someone that I'm not seeing? Is there anyone who's raised their hand?
You can take have a rest. I'm going to help you in that, Lillian, so that you can, your responsibility will be answering the questions.
All right, thank you.
We have Robert Gore and Lillian Jerry. We can have Robert and then Lillian in that order.
Good evening. Good afternoon, this evening. Okay, I have two quick issues. One, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Proceed.
I want to start by praising the moderator. She's done a good job. So the issues, I only have two quick issues. One is that on judicial, she has mentioned something to do with the tribunal making the final decision. Now the question is, should you find that the decision by the tribunal are not okay, can someone proceed to court? Number two, she dwells so much on the nomination for someone to become a candidate. That is what she dwells so much on. My other question is that how come she didn't dwell so much on this other nomination, the nomination that is normally bestowed on people who don't participate in elections? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Robert. Lillian, were you able to get the two questions from Robert?
Isaac, I'm sorry, I only got the first one. I only got the first one about the decision of the tribunal and if it can be it can be escalated. I didn't get the second one.
Robert, can kindly repeat the second question?
Actually, the second question is, she has dwelled so much on the prerequisites and the process of nomination for someone to obtain a nomination certificate or to become a candidate. Now, in political party, there are normally two nominations that I know. One is the one that she has talked of. That one, the nomination process, then how you're given a certificate by the party to become the candidate of a certain seat. Now, there is this another nomination that you don't need to participate in any election. What are the procedures? What are the prerequisites of that other nomination? The prerequisite for the nomination for someone who doesn't participate in an election.
Oh, I guess he's referring to the party list. His first question, he said that you clarified if one is contesting an elective seat, maybe MP or MCA, you have to undergo the party election, the party primary, so that you can get the certificate. Now, his question is on the people who appear in whose names appear in the party list. What is the process that the party usually use to arrive at those names? Thank you so much, Robert, for that question. I saw a hand. Thank you. Lillian Jerry, I saw your hand up. Lillian Jerry, if you can hear me, you can proceed on. Okay. Enoch Onkoba.
Hello.
Yes, Lillian, proceed.
I'm sorry, my net is so down.
Okay.
But I would like to say that, as my colleagues have said, I'm willing to continue with all the things that you've said, but merely some of the things I've not yet understood. So I was asking if I can get a copy of the question, or is it just about in the only for this video, as in I can get another copy, read it again. Yeah, that's all. But I mean,
okay, thank you so much. After the meeting, you can get in touch with Lillian. She'll be in a position to share with you the document. Enoch, you have a question before I hand it to Lillian to respond to the questions that have been raised so far?
Thank you, Isaac. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Mine is not really a question, First is to thank everyone for attending this forum, and thank you for availing the platform for us to have this forum. It's been so eye-opening. It's been so informative. Firstly, I don't know whether you want the Magufuli for, but I'll do that later. So that I don't digress. There is something I noted from the document about number one, people being able to vote on the nomination day if they were not registered with any political party. If you find crafty politicians like on Koba, they will register candidates that they register voters that morning and be able to win nomination just for the sake of it, not because you want to strengthen the political party or anything else. So that I think needs to be looked at. Secondly, there is the issue that Robert asked about tribunal being the last course of recall that they can announce a winner after they've looked at the issues. I think that one is a bit wrong because the tribunal is manipulable. If you get somebody who is crafty and who is tuned, and we've seen in this country that money talks a lot, and the tribunal, if maybe it's 5 people, somebody can be able to give them some good lunch and become the winner, which is not the right thing, I think. So I think the tribunal, yes, should be left to give guidance, should be left to say this is what we think happened, and the National Elections Board now makes the decision after the tribunal has given the advice, and then the National Executive Council. And if not that, then somebody gets the leeway to escalate it to the High Court, where they can find an opportunity to also address matters at that level. Finally, I noted the document is written KNC nomination rules 2017. That's a typo that I think should correct. 2017 is long gone, and we're reviewing in 2022 and beyond. So that is, I think, what I saw from the document. Isaac, back to you.
Thank you so much on Koba. Then we have Evans Muriongi, who his question is maybe seeking some clarity from Lillian when the party is preparing to start its mobilization process. So I believe, Lillian, as you respond to those questions, you're also going to respond to that one. So I'm going to give you this opportunity. You respond to those ones first, and then in case you have other questions, the members, I kindly, you can put them on chat. I'm going to see them, or you can also raise your hand. Lillian?
Thank you so much, Isaac. Thank you for that. Thank you, dear members, for raising your concerns. James, asante sana for recognizing that the document is important and that sharing it at this particular point is also good. This was for information purposes, and then we go beyond that to interrogate that which we have. And that is what we are doing. You have also said that once we have known this, we also need to know as candidates, because we are here, I hope we are all intending to vie, that as candidates, once you have been given that certificate, then you're going all the way to the ballot. May I also add that the chance of being, becoming an independent candidate after you have vied on this end is very slim, because the Constitution provides that if you want to be an independent candidate, then you must be not in any political party for at least 90 days. So there's no way you will be vying here at KNC and then you fail and then you submit your name as an independent candidate. So unless you have a means of deleting your records that fast, I don't know how you can reverse that. So the law protects both you and I. And we trust that we at KNC will uphold law and order so that things are transparent and everyone appreciates that which is done. Robert talks about the decision of the tribunal. And he asked if after the tribunal has done the decision, can you proceed to the courts? What I know is that the tribunal at KNC is not the highest court in the land. However, it would be important that as KNC members, we are able to sort out our issues in-house. We should be in a position to trust those who are seated in those tribunals so that matters are dealt with, exhaustively, so that there is no need to proceed further. But we all have a right to be heard and to be comfortable with that which is going on. So should it necessitate, then you can proceed further. And then about the party lists, that document is very clear. It is talking about a member making an application that you must apply. And when you have applied, in that position you're applying in, you as an individual must meet the criteria as provided in the Constitution. For example, if you are applying to be a senator, then we know the education requirement. We do know that you must have a certain level of education. You must have met the requirements in Chapter 6 of the Constitution. So then that application is submitted to a member of the tribunal, of the National Executive Elections Board, and then your application is considered. Among other things that the document says is that we must consider regional balancing, we must consider women, youth, and marginalized persons. And all these considerations will only be done if someone has done an application. So we start, Robert, we start by making an application to that body, and then evaluations will be done, and the final list will be submitted to IEBC. Lillian Jerry, thank you so much for staying and saying that you're part of this beginning to the end. And then you've asked, can I get a copy of the document? Yes, like I said earlier, this document is only 17 pages. But if you had a personal interaction with it, probably you'll raise more concerns. I promise to get your email addresses and then we'll circulate it as long as I get the go-ahead from the Secretary General, who is the one in charge of all the documents in the party. Enoch, you're talking about voting in the morning, and you have identified a loophole in that document. After that statement about registration of voters, you should have noted that there is the decision of the National Executive Council whether voting on the actual morning shall be done. I don't think it's a prudent thing to do. I agree with you, it's a room that can be manipulated wrongly by people with ill motives. So yes, it is something that I can raise with the people who have generated the document. And you have also said that that document is listed 2017. I thought it would be wise for us to use a document that we have shared with our regulators. That is a document that ORPP has. So if we pulled another document, it will be a document that no one else has had access to it. It would also be a document that only fits us. So thank you for highlighting that it is a document that is very, very, should I call, for lack of a better word, old. We will advise the Secretary General to amend it. But let's also recognize that we can only use a document that has been stamped and accepted by our regulators. The tribunal should not be in a position to decide and declare a winner. I agree with you, because that there's a chance. You have said that it can be manipulated in terms of corruption and all that. There's also a chance that this other person who may be declared loser can go ahead and contest in the courts in the land. So if they contest in the court yet the tribunal has declared a winner, KNC will be in jeopardy, because they're likely to have two people presented for the same seat, one declared by a court and one declared by its own tribunal. So I agree with you, it's something that needs review. Evans Murungi, you have asked, when is the party preparing to do mobilization process to bring the voters on board? The document we have read has just said that bringing people on board is ongoing. Every single day that can be done. However, probably you're asking if you will get the backing of the members of the National Executive Council. Allow me to throw this ball to one good leader who is with us here. Enoch Onkoba sits in the National Executive Council. And in the council, he has been given the mandate as a youth to bring on board members. Sasa mkiona watu ni wachache, uliza Enoch, why youths are not here? Kiongozi, I'm throwing it to your end. But Evans, the long and short is recruitment is ongoing. Please do it. You have the blessing of the party leader. You have the blessing of the National Executive Council. Please do it. Where you get obstacles and you need legal guidance, the Deputy Legal Affairs Leader is here, Robert Ouko. He will give you legal guidance. Hakuna sababu ya youth kutofanya their bit in KNC. So we have all the blessings. Is there anybody's question I've not addressed? Isaac, maybe you can let me know anyone that I've left out.
Thank you so much, Lillian. We are now going to take another round of questions. Let me start with a question that has been asked in chat by Jackson Digger. Jackson says, hello, I would wish to applaud the team who designed the document. It's a nice one. Secondly, I'm of the view that youth should be allowed to hold an independent portfolio and jurisdiction without comparing them as women and as person with disabilities. Consider that the youth is the largest population we have in every civilization and mostly in Kenya. So kindly provide a youthful nomination besides women and persons with disability, and that is his humble submission. And then we have Florence Mwangi was requesting we share with her the presentation. And then John Onyango, he says, I love the kind of preparation the party is putting in place as you approach the electioneering period. And then he emphasizes on the need for members to observe and embrace peace. He says that we should avoid hate language, prevent violent extremism at all costs. So those are some of the two things that you can respond to the members. What is the party doing in ensuring that they provide more spaces for the young people? And then secondly, also what is the role of the party in ensuring that the nomination processes are credible and fair, and that they do not result to any violence after once the nomination process is over. Let me see whether we have another person who has raised their hand. Enoch, I'll give you an opportunity. You'll be the last person. Yeah, Enoch, you could also make your contribution, and then I'll give to Lillian to respond to the two questions and also give the final remarks. Enoch?
Yes, Isaac. Just a quick one. Lillian threw a ball back to me, and it's a challenge I take. And but I didn't want to. I saw Muriungi leave, na nilikuwa nataka kumpatia wazo kidogo before he left, but all the same, Lillian threw a challenge to me of recruitment. And recruitment is an ongoing process, and it's upon every party member to help recruit as many as they can. Hii kazi kwa Nkoba peke yake itakuwa mingi, but we will do our bit. I know it's a day for the young people today. We will continue doing the least we can to make sure that we engage young people on matters politics, on matters leadership, so that we can create a strong foundation for the development of this nation and democracy of this nation going forward. I love what Jackson has said, but we must also keep in mind that the youth don't exist alone. They exist in the midst of women, in the midst of people with disabilities. We also have youth who are women. We also have youth who are living with disabilities. We should emphasize that everything we do, we make sure that even within the Youth League, we have women, we give space to the young ladies in the Youth League, we give space to the young people living with disabilities within the Youth League, and we make sure that we engulf everyone within society who is willing to be a change agent within their locality and a change agent within the country, because this country needs all of us. This country cannot work if we look to sidelining other people, but we must work together. We must emphasize that we hold hands, the people with disabilities, the young people, the women, the elderly, because it's now becoming another cluster. Nyumba za wazee zinakuwa mingi sana siku hizi than even polytechnics, because as young people we've left our parents mashinani bila kuangalia. So we must encompass everyone and have everyone on board. And as KNC and as the chairperson of the Youth League, I want to assure everyone here that we will do as much as we can. We'll do our best to come to every corner. I know the people from Kisii here, Muriungi is from Tharaka Nithi. We are organizing a meeting for Tharaka Nithi. So we'll go to Tharaka Nithi for mobilization. He's our lead there. And we will have engagements across the country if time and resources allows. Back to Isaac.
Thank you so much, Onkoba. I've seen maybe it was an emphasis from Jackson Digger that says the electoral dispute tribunal shall therefore play and stand in the very best interest of the party and on the principle of neutrality to ensure due diligence and practical democracy. I believe he was trying to emphasize what you have just responded. So Lillian, let me give you this opportunity to respond to the earlier two questions and also make the final remarks.
Thank you so much, Isaac. Thank you, Enoch. That was an important emphasis right there, and the assurance that you're giving youth that this is not just a today's event, it's a continuous, and we trust that this is going to not only go far, but it will benefit all of us and Kenya at large. Jackson Thiga, karibu sana. I remember the last discussion we had, you're passionate, extremely passionate about youth and youth in leadership. Now, your concern is actually addressed within our, our constitution. Currently, in the Senate, we do have nomination slots for both youth and persons with disability. And the youth in the Senate are youth in terms of umri, age, and not physical, I know that right now the youths have been put aside. Actually, when it comes to nomination, the word youth, they put them aside and it is described as the age of a person. And then there's also another slot for persons with disability. So your concern is right. Maybe you're asking if at the party level, then that is trickled down. What I know, it is the parties that then feed in the respective houses. So the same law that is observed by the Parliament, National House, and the county assemblies is the same law that the parties observe. So yes, be assured that we consider youth as a homogeneous entity. They are not mixed the way it would come out or sound to be. And I think it's just the right way to do. The other thing is, you may not have raised it, but I strongly believe that it is the youth that should drive this development agenda. So that there will not even be need, not even be need to even look for nomination slots for youths. I challenge all of us, that we come out in large numbers so that they will not even, I'm looking forward to a time where we'll want 70-year-olds to be nominated, because they are the ones who need to learn from us. Why would you take a 25-year-old, a 28-year-old that sasa wewe tumekunominate, hata kwa parliament hauna pesa, you don't even have a voting right? Let's be real. Look at it keenly. We have the strength to walk across the county We have the strength to walk crisscross the county the way you want. A 70-year-old doesn't have that strength to crisscross. They're probably depending on their money, which they pay us, the young people, to make sure that they're bribed in. So please, young people, let us stand up. Let us flood that parliament mpaka kukuwe na nomination ya wazee. Mimi, that's my challenge to all of us. Yes. Because you can walk. We have young people in parliament. The gentleman who had to go and shake Uhuru's hand because he was walking door to door. He believed that he has leadership capacity. You know? So youth should flood that parliament so that the rules change. You keep pleading for other wazes to be brought on board. And I know they are still contributing through the barazas. So I don't know if we will need nomination at all. Anyway, let us progress from there. That discussion is extremely passionate and we need to pick it. It shouldn't end here. There's a question that what's the role of the party in ensuring that the process is credible and it's fair, that the nomination process is credible and fair? If you went through the document, there are various levels or bodies who are responsible over this nomination process. Number two, what I liked most when I read the document is the fact that I will apply. I will make an application so that it is not somebody just sitting somewhere and say, ule Enoch anakanga anajua kuongea sana, wacha tumpatie hii kiti. Can you imagine if you learned that Enoch has been given nomination and he has not written any application and he doesn't meet? You know, you and I have ground to contest and say this is not what our document says. So today we are actually enlightening ourselves and saying, if this is what the document says, then so be it. Let us adhere to it. You and I, if you don't get a chance to qualify out there, then you have a chance to apply to the National Election Board for nomination. And that is why we are seated here, so that we know the procedure and so that we can be better equipped and make better choices in future. Asante sana. Isaac, I think those were the only questions I was supposed to address. Is there any other?
Let me see whether we have some. Yes, on Koba?
There's something I forgot to mention. There's something Lillian mentioned before about nomination and independent candidates. Nilisikia ni kama amesema that you cannot become an independent candidate after you run for nomination, which was a bit, it's a bit not right, because the Elections Act stipulates that party nominations have to take place, or party primaries have to take place 120 days before the date of the national election or a general election. So, and it also stipulates that now an independent candidate can vie in the general election if they were not members of a political party 90 days to the general election. So that gives people room. It's about 30 days room to move from political parties to be independent candidates. That is why in the previous general election, that is 2017, we had very many people who went to run as independent candidates. And actually we have, I think, 43 or 45 members of parliament who are independent. So it is a room that the Elections Act gave. What they were trying to do is they didn't want people to party hope. What is not possible is moving from one party to the other. But you can still be an independent candidate after if you feel that your nomination was taken from you undeservedly. Kinyo,
let me respond to Enoch first. Thank you. Now, Enoch, you realize those are 120 days. There are very few parties observe the 120 days. Actually, we stretch it as far as possible so that we make sure that we are operating within the 90 days that the people who are supposed to take advantage of independence agree. So that's the reality. That's the reality. So if you don't submit within the 120 days, it means then if I was looking for a chance at KNC, for example, and then my party presents a list, within the time that I should have been, outside, So it actually bars you. It actually bars you. So one ought to decide where you stand. You need to decide where you stand very many months before election. Yeah.
Yes, we
But it is
we just
also
hope
true.
that
But it
yes.
is also true that we have very many independent members of parliament. They took advantage of that window. But the other thing, we also know that there are so many loopholes. You remember I said that any person who wants to participate in the nomination, kindly take time and confirm with ORPP if your name is in their register. There was a time those names did not appear in that register. In that case, then no one will crucify you because you will be like, my name is not there. I've not been a member for 90 days and therefore I can go
Yes.
ahead. But if your name appears there, then the law will not allow you to.
We just hope that political parties will be able to follow the rules as they are, and at KNC we have to, because then we cannot put ourselves out there as a youth-friendly party.
Yes.
Let's make democracy work the way it's supposed to, and that is why. And this is my final statement, Isaac. I may not be mourning Magufuli because didn't mourn Moi. I might not be mourning Magufuli because anybody who kills democracy is not a friend of the young people. We have a generation that is not so strong, that does not know how to fight for their rights. So with a stifled democracy, then the youth have a very tough future. So KNC has to promise, and as I sit in the neck, I'll have to promise the young people that we will stick to democracy, that we will stick for the right of every young person, wherever they are, Turkana, Lokicha, Mombasa, Kwale, in West Pokot, anywhere. If you want to vie on a KNC ticket, you will get fair primaries, you will get a fair judgment anytime you want to vie. For those in the party list for nomination slots, you may not have to be on Koba's girlfriend to be nominated as a women representative. You may not have to know the SG. What you have to do is stick with the party, mobilize the grassroots, work for the party, and you will get the nomination into the county assemblies, into the National Assembly, to the Senate, and wherever an opportunity will arise. Thank you very much.
Asante sana, Enoch. Enoch, allow me to tell you this. We will mourn President Magufuli because he's a human being. We will not mourn his ideologies. We don't stand with him as far as his ideologies are concerned, but he is human and we will mourn him. Yes, so thank you so much for the clarification. Isaac,
To the extent that
Enoch,
is,
I will not allow you to respond
to the extent that
that.
he's human, I'll say RIP.
No. Once we are the meeting is over, then I'll give you an opportunity to have one or two words with the young people of the party. So thank you so much, Lillian. Thank you so much, Onkoba. And also thank you so much to
Thank
all
you.
the young people from the Kenya National Congress who are able to take part in the meeting. It is quite commendable seeing that almost all the participants have been with us from the beginning till right now, when you're almost winding up the meeting. And from the Center for Multi-Party Democracy, as Onkoba have said, that it is our hope that the party is going to ensure that whenever we have the party primaries, the nomination process, also even when it comes to the issue of the party list, that we are going to have a credible, transparent, and free exercise, so that we can, because the overall goal is to ensure that political parties become institutions of governance that are able to be accountable and also represent the people in a good and fair process. And we hope, looking forward, now that we are going forward into an electioneering period from the Center for Multi-Party Democracy, very soon we'll be also getting back to the political parties so that we can be in a position to work on ways of strengthening their internal capacities to be able to resolve disputes, because in the political processes, disputes do arise. No matter even if you may want disputes to arise in the process of the party processes, but whenever disputes arise, it is our hope that the political parties can have the mechanisms very well put in place to ensure that the disputes are resolved in a timely and in a good fair process. So thank you so much from CMD Kenya. Tunawashukuru sana, and we wish you all the best, the members of KNC party, in all your endeavors. And the young people continue taking the space, the democratic space come 2022 general election. It will be quite a good thing to see most of you contesting for those elective positions. So, asanteni sana, and pass our regards to the leadership of the party. Thank you.
Thank you, Isaac. Thank you too for the platform. You have given us a chance to, that we are the leaders and we can make a difference. Pass our regards to Range. He was to give a closing remark, but he must be held somewhere. Pass our regards to Range. Pass our regards to Bwana Idi Franklin Mkwanja. Oh, Range, unajua lazima tukushukuru, otherwise
Wacha aseme jambo.
otherwise mkutano ingine yezi kuwa. So thank you so much, Range. You can say your last words. And before Range speaks, please kindly receive regards from Mr. Chairman, Bwana John Imoite. Also receive regards from the Secretary General. We are expecting him to be here, and he has not made it. We are looking forward to try and slot in the party the party leader in one of our discussions as young people. We hope that will happen very soon. But for those two leaders, they have passed their regards and they're saying they're together with you and they're aware of this meeting. So back to you, Isaac. Nashukuru sana for your time. Dear